Hello friends, I am Dr. Samadhan Subhashmani, working as Associate Professor of English at Karmavir Bhaurao Patil Mahavidyalaya, Pandharpur. Today we are going to deal with the topic elements of sentence, sometimes which are called as elements of clause in linguistics. So before we begin with the elements of a sentence, we will start with what sentence actually is. We will try to define the sentence and to understand the definition of a sentence. So sentence is a set of words that is complete in itself, typically containing a subject and predicate, conveying a statement, question, exclamation or command, and consisting of a main clause and sometimes one or more subordinate clauses. One more simple definition of a sentence is a group of words with complete meaning. So when we go through these two definitions of sentence, we find out a number of important words in the definition of sentence which we need to understand. So let us begin with the first definition of sentence. So the words that are in red font, a set of words. So basically sentence is a set of words, it's a group of words, but the condition is it should be complete in itself. So what do we mean by complete in itself? A sentence should have its own meaning, it should stand independently. The next important words in the definition are typically containing a subject and predicate. So when we want to analyze a sentence, primarily we divide the sentence in two parts. First part is subject part of the sentence and remaining part is called predicate of the sentence. Then conveying a statement, question, exclamation or command. Actually these are the four functions of the four types of sentence. So sentence basically is used to make statement. It also is used to ask a question, for example interrogative sentence. Then exclamatory sentence is used to express sudden emotions and feelings, and command or requests are made using imperative sentence. So these are the types of sentences which you might have studied, come across somewhere. Next important words are a sentence consists of main clause. So main clause is equal to sentence. So sentence should have at least one main clause which is called as simple sentence, and sometimes one or more subordinate clauses. So when there are subordinate clauses added to the main clause, the sentence becomes a complex one. So what we understand out of this particular definition of a sentence is a set of words which has its own meaning, which has particular functions to play, and it consists of main clause basically, and subordinate clauses are optional elements. Subordinate clauses may be there, may not be there. Second definition of sentence is simple one. Sentence is a group of words with complete meaning. So this is the essence of the first definition that we have studied. So let us see examples. The first example, John home these days due to, is a group of words, because the definition of the sentence says that sentence is a group of words. So first example is a group of words. Can we call it as a sentence? No, because this is only a group of words. It doesn't have complete meaning. There are particular words that are missing. So when we call a particular group of words as a sentence, it should have complete meaning, and in order to be meaningful, that group of words should have verb. So verb is the obligatory element in a sentence. So let us look at the second example. John works at home these days due to COVID-19. So this particular sentence, it can be called as a complete sentence because it is meaningful. It has subject, it has verb and other elements it has. So let's move on to what a clause is, because we are going to study elements of sentence which are called as elements of clause also, and clause is an important stage in hierarchy of grammatical units. So the definition of clause is a unit of grammatical organization next below the sentence in the rank and said to consist of a subject and predicate. So when you go through this particular definition of clause, you might have understood that there is not a great difference between sentence and clause. A clause which is a main clause can stand as a sentence also, because sentence also consists of subject and predicate. Clause also consists of subject and predicate. The only difference is that clause is below sentence in the hierarchy of grammatical units. So this is what is called as hierarchy of grammatical units. In this hierarchy, word is the lowest unit, phrase is next to word, clause is next to phrase, and sentence is the highest unit in the hierarchy of grammatical units. So in the hierarchy of grammatical units, clause is in lower rank than the sentence. For example, Mary works from home because she is in isolation due to COVID-19. So when we go through this example, the part of the sentence that is in blue font is the main clause, and the part of the sentence that begins with because and is in red font is a subordinate clause. So this particular sentence consists of two clauses. First one is the main clause, which is in blue ink, and the second part of the clause is subordinate clause. So it becomes a complex sentence. So clause is a part of sentence. Sometimes main clause, not sometimes, most of the times main clause can stand as a separate sentence. See, Mary works from home is a main clause. It is okay if we give full stop after home because the clause is meaningful. But the second clause, because she is in isolation due to COVID-19, has to be attached to main clause, and then only it becomes meaningful. That's why it is called as subordinate clause. So these are the elements of sentence or clause that we are going to study. There are 5 principal elements of sentence which are called as SPOCA. So they are popularly known as SPOCA. S stands for subject, P stands for verb or predicate. In grammar we call it as a verb, and in linguistics we call it as a predicate or predicator. O stands for object, C stands for complement, and A stands for adverbial. So if we want to write any sentence in English, we have to use some or all of the elements of the sentence. So let us begin with subject. So in order to understand these elements of sentence, we have found a formula. First we will try to understand the definition of the element, then the position of that element, and what type of word that element is, and we'll try to understand that element from a couple of examples. So let us start with the definition of subject. So subject is called as the doer of action. So subject is the name of a person or any living being or non-living being that performs the action. So action is performed by the subject. What is the position of subject in sentence? So subject generally comes at the beginning of a sentence. So any simple sentence generally begins with a subject. So subject is the first element in simple sentence. So what type of noun subject may be? So subject may be a noun or pronoun. In certain cases, even adjective also functions as subject. For example, Michael is a rock star. So in this particular sentence, the word Michael, which is in red font, is a noun, comes at the beginning, and is the doer of the action, that is called as subject. and second sentence is he belongs to India. So here pronoun he stands for Michael. So Michael is the subject in the first sentence, and in the second sentence he is a subject. So the second important and the obligatory or compulsory element of a sentence is verb, which we call as a predicator or predicate also. So the definition of verb is words used to describe an action, state, and are main parts of any sentence. So verb is used to describe the action or sometimes to describe the state also, and verb is the main part of a sentence. It is used to indicate action. So verbs are the words that narrate or describe action. What is the position of verb in a sentence? So verb generally comes at the second place in a sentence. So in a simple sentence, verb takes second position. But if there are different type of sentences, the position of the verb may change. For example, if it is imperative sentence begins with verb. So verb will be at the initial position in imperative sentence. So these are the exceptions. But in order to understand SPOCA, we will take examples of simple sentences in normal condition. So what type of verbs are? So verbs are content verbs such as run, sleep, read, write, talk, walk. There are number of examples which we can cite. And even auxiliary verbs also, such as am, is, are, was, were, and there are modal auxiliary verbs also. So these are the types of words which function as predicate and which are called verb. For example, see, in the first sentence, cheetah runs faster than any other animal. The word that is in red font is runs, which is a verb which describes action, which is a content verb. Runs is a content verb. In the second sentence, grammar is an important aspect of any language. The word that is in red font is. So is basically auxiliary verb. Sometimes it is called as operator verb also, helping verb also. Sometimes it functions as helping verb, and here in this particular sentence it is functioning as main verb of the sentence because there is no any other verb with is. So is the auxiliary verb that functions as predicate or verb. So now let's move on to the third element in sentence, that is object. So the definition of object is an object is a noun or pronoun that is affected by action of the verb. See, we have seen three elements of sentence up to now. First is subject, second is predicate, and third one is object. So there is a very interesting kind of correlation between these three. Subject is a doer of action, verb is action itself, and object is an element on which the action is performed by the doer of action, that is subject. So all these three elements are interestingly correlated with each other. So an object is noun or pronoun that is affected by the action that is narrated, described in the verb. The position of object is, object generally takes third position in a simple sentence. So it comes after verb. And what type of word object is? It is either noun or pronoun. So object can be noun also, object can be pronoun also. Let's try to understand from a couple of examples. First example is John ate an apple. So in this particular sentence, apple is a word that is in red font and which is an object. Basically it's a noun functioning an object as an object, because see, John is the doer of action. Action is eating, and the object or the thing on which the action is performed by John is apple. So apple is being eaten by John, if we try to understand in that way. So apple is the element which is affected by the action in the verb. Second example, the police arrested him. Now here him is a pronoun which functions as object. See, the position of both these elements is after verb. Arrested is verb here in this second example, and him comes at the third position. In the first example also, ate is verb and an apple comes at the third position. So object is affected by the action which is there in the verb. There are two types of object, direct object and indirect object. So when there are two types of objects in a sentence, the first object is indirect object and the second object is direct object. It is very much possible there are a number of sentences in which there are two objects, and we have a trick also how to identify that there are two objects in particular sentence. Let us see an example. John offered Mary a red rose. Here in this particular sentence, Mary, which is in blue font, is an object, a noun, and a red rose also is a noun. So when there are two nouns one after another after predicate or verb, we have to see whether both of them are animate, that is living, or inanimate, that is non-living. If both the nouns are animate, then there is only one object and one complement. If both the nouns are inanimate, then also there are no two objects. But if one noun is animate, that is living, and another noun is non-living, then we can say that there are two objects. So John offered Mary, which is animate, living, and red rose, which is inanimate, non-living. So John offered Mary a red rose. In this particular sentence, Mary is indirect object and red rose is direct object. So these are the two types of objects which are there in a sentence, which may be there in a sentence. So now let us move on to the fourth element of a sentence, that is complement. Complement is a word that gives additional information about noun in a sentence. So you might remember the definition of an adjective. Adjective also gives additional information about noun or pronoun. So complement also has the similar definition, because adjectives most of the times function as complement. So what kind of additional information can be given by the complement? So complement gives additional information like the color, age, size, height, and even nationality and whatnot. There are a number of things which can be related to a noun, and complement performs the function of giving additional information of noun in a sentence. So position of complement generally takes third position in a sentence. So how is it possible that object also takes third position and complement also takes third position? So if in a particular sentence, if to be verb functions as main verb, the third element is complement. If to be verb is not the main verb, if content verb is the main verb in a sentence, then the third element is object. That is the simple trick to differentiate between object and complement, because complement always follows to be verb functioning as main verb. So what are the types of words that function as complement? So as I have already told you, adjective functions as complement, and most of the times nouns also are used as complements. Let us see some examples. So in the first example, John is a student, and in the second example, Mary is sincere. So in these particular examples, the word student is in red font, and in the second example the word sincere is in red font. So these are the two complements in this particular sentence. So how to identify that it's a complement? So student is the qualification of John. Student is a word that gives additional information about John. Who is John? So it gives information that John is a student. And in the second sentence, sincere is a word that is related to Mary. So sincerity is the quality that the word describes regarding the subject. There are two types of complement also, subject complement and object complement. Subject complement gives additional information about subject of a sentence. For example, some politicians are corrupt. In this particular example, some politicians are subject, and corrupt is a complement. It's a quality of subject. So corrupt is called as a subject complement because it gives additional information about subject, politicians. Some politicians, I have said, not all politicians. Object complement gives additional information about object. Very simple. Subject complement is related to subject. In the same way, object complement gives additional information about object. For example, judge declared John innocent. So here judge is subject, declared is verb, John is object, third position, and innocent is a quality of John. John is innocent. We cannot relate innocent to judge because judge is the person who has declared. What he has declared? That John is innocent. So John is an additional information about John, and John is an object. So innocent is object complement. The last but the most important element of a sentence is adverbial. So let us define adverbial. Adverbial is a word or phrase that gives additional information such as time, place, manner of the verb or action in a sentence. Now we can relate adverbial to complement. Complement gives additional information about what? Noun in a sentence. May that noun be subject or object. Adverbial gives additional information about what? A verb phrase. It gives additional information about the action in a sentence. The word adverb itself defines, it's a self-explanatory. Add plus verb. So it adds something to the verb. So what does it add? It adds information such as time, place, manner of the action that is performed. So it answers the time of action, it answers the place of action, and it tells us in what manner the action was performed. The position of adverbial is very interesting. Adverb is a word that can occur anywhere in a sentence. So that is why by grammarians and linguists also it is called as mobile element. It does not have its fixed position in a sentence. Other elements, remaining 4 elements, have their fixed position. Subject has fixed position, beginning, verb second position, object and complement third and fourth position. Complement also has third and fourth position. But it is adverb that can occur anywhere in a sentence. It may occur at the beginning before subject. It may occur somewhere in the middle of the sentence, or it may occur at the end of the sentence also. So what type of words are adverbials? So names of places function as adverbs. Time denoting words also function as adverb, and manner adverbs also function as adverbial. So what are manner adverbs? Manner adverbs are mostly words ending in ly. For example, confidently, happily, etc. Names of places are the names of places like Pandharpur, Temburni, Solapur, Mumbai. Time denoting words are the words which tell us about days, weeks, year, minutes, whatever. The word that denotes time is time adverbial. So let us try to understand from a couple of examples. First one is John went to Mumbai on Monday. So in this particular sentence, Monday, which is in red font, is an adverbial of time because it talks about time. Mumbai also is there, which talks about place in the second sentence, in first sentence also, but we have focused it on in the second sentence. Both of them live in Mumbai. So when we say Mumbai is a place, it talks about adverbial, or it answers the question. Mary answered confidently. So confidently is the word that is manner adverbial because it talks about the manner of answering. Manner of answering. Answering is the action. So how did Mary answer the question? So Mary answered confidently. So the manner of answering is confidently. For the adverb of place, we can ask the question which are called eliciting questions also. We can ask question where. So where do both of them live? So answer is place, Mumbai. And John went to Mumbai on Monday. So the question that we can ask in order to get adverbial as answer is when did John go to Mumbai? So answer is on Monday. So thank you very much for patient listening.